Chrysanthemum is a beautiful animation. This was released in 1999. It's directed by Virginia Wilkos and written by Kevin Henkes and stars Meryl Streep, or it's narrated by Meryl Streep. And this is about a little mouse called Chrysanthemum. And over the course of about 15 minutes, we learn that she loves her name, but when she gets to school, she has a change of heart. And it starts off with little baby mouse, and she loves her name. She loves seeing her name written down when she learns to write. She loves to write her name. As her parents have told her, her name is very special and she thinks it's beautiful. And I love that. But when she goes to school, the other children tease her because by far she has the longest name in the class. As they point out, it barely fits on her name tag. And they make fun of her. And Chrysanthemum begins to think that maybe her name isn't so perfect after all. And she gets very upset about this, and she has some really bad dreams. And sometimes the dreams are good because in the dream she has a short name. And she's really struggling with this. And I won't say how she comes to terms with things, because that for me was part of the curiosity. I had no idea whether Chrysanthemum would learn to love her name again or what would happen with that. So I won't spoil it, but I will say that the direction it took, I thought, was very, very well done. There's also some great food for thought in this, depending on which person you relate to the most. Obviously, for young children with names that are maybe longer than other children's names or slightly different, if they're getting teased at school, they can relate to that. And it can maybe help them to realise that actually Chrysanthemum loved her name, so it's okay to love your name too. If you're a teacher, I think there are some good tips in this on how to handle it as well. But also a lesson for parents that maybe think about the name you're giving to your child and how it might affect them. I think Chrysanthemum is a perfectly lovely name, but there are, let's face it, some names that are just, especially nowadays, they're not doing the children any favours, put it that way. And I think it's important that parents need to think about how the child will be affected by that name. And sometimes it is just a perfectly lovely name like Chrysanthemum, and sometimes the names are just bordering on child abuse, let's be honest. So definitely some food for thought there, depending on where you're coming from or what you can relate to the most. For me, with a name like Amy, well, I can't relate to it in that sense, but my surname is strange. McLean is not my birth surname. It is my legal surname, but it's not the surname I was born with. So I know exactly what it feels like to have fun made of you because of your name. And I can relate to Chrysanthemum in that sense. But that doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean that just because she has a different name, the other children can bully her and we can see the effects that that can have on her. I guess there's also a lesson in there for bullies. If you're bullying somebody for their name, this is how you might be making them feel. And they might be crying when they go home, so stop it. So I think regardless of where you're coming from with this, there's something that you can take away. And it's beautifully animated. The animation is absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous. The colour palette is really beautiful. I love the designs of the characters. It's just an absolute delight to watch. And of course, Meryl Streep, unsurprisingly, does a really great job with the narration. In terms of the pacing, I have no complaints. It did start to slow down around about 10 minutes, and I was thinking, okay, this is probably going to be wrapping up soon, but it wasn't so slow that I felt I was getting bored. So it's definitely slightly longer than I think it needed to be, but also I wouldn't say it's too long either. And I rather enjoyed it. I'd never heard of this. I discovered it randomly on Letterboxd, and I'm really pleased that I did, because it's gorgeous, beautifully animated, very well narrated, of course, with some really important messages, a really likable protagonist, and such beautiful animation. Chrysanthemum is one that I'm delighted to have seen, and I'm very, very happy to recommend.